Iran walks away with the prize as reported draft details spark claims of major financial and political concessions for Tehran. $24 billion reality check for Israel as the leaked framework is said to reshape pressure dynamics across the region. After years of pressure, Iran may emerge with significant concessions if the reported outline reflects final negotiations. Netanyahu's nightmare scenario grows as concerns mount that missile and regional security issues remain unresolved. Netanyahu's worst fears deepen as reports suggest the Lebanon front could be included in a broader regional arrangement. Leaked 14-point Iran-US draft has signaled a major shift in sanctions, shipping, and frozen funds, according to emerging reports. Iran's Mehr News reported the existence of a 14-point draft memorandum of understanding between Iran and the United States that outlines a potential framework for de-escalation. As per the report, the proposed framework could unlock up to $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets held under international restrictions. Half of the funds could become available before final talks even begin, according to details cited in the report. The remaining funds would reportedly be released gradually over a 60-day negotiation period as part of the phased arrangement, Mehr said. Permanent and immediate cessation of hostilities on all fronts, including Lebanon, forming the core demand of the proposed framework. Non-interference in Iran's internal affairs and full respect for its national sovereignty as a binding political condition. Complete lifting of the naval blockade within 30 days, enabling the restoration of unrestricted maritime movement. A commitment from the United States to withdraw its forces from positions deployed around Iran as part of the de-escalation plan. Reopening of the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days under Iranian arrangements to restore critical energy and trade flows. Suspension of sanctions on the sale of oil, petrochemical products, and related derivatives to revive Iran's export economy. Reconstruction plans for Iran valued at a minimum of $300 billion as part of long-term post-crisis recovery support. Complete lifting of primary, secondary U.S. sanctions, along with related UN resolutions under coordinated rollback mechanism. Reaffirmation of Iran's commitment under the NPT not to pursue or develop nuclear weapons capabilities. No deployment of new forces in the region and no imposition of additional sanctions during the negotiation process. Release of $24 billion in blocked Iranian funds, with half of the amount required to be released before formal talks begin. Establishment of a monitoring mechanism to oversee implementation and ensure compliance with the agreement framework. The final agreement would be subject to approval through a United Nations Security Council resolution. Iran's missile program and support for regional resistance groups are excluded from the agenda under the proposed structure. Mehr said the United States would also be required to present a structured plan outlining Iran's economic reconstruction and recovery support. Final negotiations would reportedly focus on nuclear commitments, while excluding any direct discussions on Iran's missile program. The report stated the proposal still requires final approval from relevant authorities before any formal implementation. Official confirmation of the draft has not been provided by either Washington or Tehran at this stage. If confirmed, the proposed framework would mark one of the most significant shifts in US-Iran relations in recent years. Axios reported a proposed 60-day extension of the existing ceasefire framework, including Lebanon, as diplomatic efforts seek to stabilize multiple active front lines across the region. The leaked Mehr draft outlined an immediate and indefinite halt to fighting across the wider region, positioning the move as a baseline condition for broader negotiations and de-escalation talks. An Iran-linked hacker group has issued a new warning to the United States and its allies as regional tensions continue to rise. The group warned that any fresh military action against Iran would be met with what it described as a strong and decisive response. Handala claimed that missiles were ready to launch and cautioned Washington against taking any step that could further escalate the conflict. In one of its most provocative messages yet, the group directly addressed US Marines, urging them to contact their families and prepare for what it called a bitter response. Handala Hacking Group said, and I quote, "We advise US Marines to contact their families right now and say their goodbyes. The missiles are ready to launch, and Hanzaleh is awaiting a blunder on your part. The strikes in the coming hours will be bitter," unquote. The statement concluded with a stark warning directed at Iran's adversaries: ending with the words, "Welcome to hell." The threat comes as the confrontation between Washington and Tehran increasingly spans military, diplomatic, and cyber fronts. Handallah has previously claimed involvement in cyber operations targeting American and Israeli institutions and interests. In recent months, the group has repeatedly threatened U.S. military personnel stationed across the Middle East. The hacker group recently claimed it had obtained sensitive information related to U.S. officers and military facilities throughout the region. Iran-linked Handallah Group claimed it supplied targeting data to IRGC missile and drone units, portraying itself as a key intelligence feeder for recent strikes. According to Tasneem News, the hackers said their database contained up-to-date intelligence on U.S. military bases, suggesting a structured repository of surveillance and location data. Handallah further claimed that all designated U.S. military targets selected using this information were successfully hit, framing the operation as proof of their effectiveness. The hacktivist group is widely reported to have links with Iranian state intelligence, blurring the line between independent cyber actors and official security apparatus. It has also allegedly conducted multiple high-profile cyber attacks against U.S. and Israeli networks, building a track record of operations aligned with Iran's regional adversaries. In May, U.S. officials suspected that Iran-linked hackers breached fuel monitoring systems, highlighting growing concerns that critical infrastructure is increasingly vulnerable to such cyber operations. CNN reports the cyber attack focused on automatic tank gauge (ATG) systems that track fuel levels at pumps and storage tanks, a vital layer of station safety and inventory control. Investigators say hackers exploited ATG systems left exposed online without password protection across multiple U.S. states, opening easy entry points for malicious access. In some incidents, attackers manipulated display readings shown to staff and customers, though officials say those changes did not affect the actual physical volume of fuel in tanks. According to officials cited by CNN, no physical damage or reported spills have been confirmed so far, but assessments remain ongoing as the probe continues. Authorities warn the breach creates serious safety risks because compromised ATG access could allow real leaks or malfunctions to go undetected by frontline operators. The alleged hack occurred as crude oil prices continued rising amid a major shutdown of Strait of Hormuz traffic, adding another dimension to the energy security worry. Sources briefed on the investigation say Iran is a principal suspect given Tehran's history of targeting similar industrial control systems and infrastructure abroad. If formally attributed to Tehran, the incident would represent another case in which Iranian-linked actors targeted U.S. critical infrastructure with disruptive cyber campaigns. An American strike that damaged two of Iran's water facilities has provoked a severe backlash, with critics arguing the action crossed a moral line by targeting civilian utilities and escalating the conflict beyond military objectives. U.S. forces destroyed reservoirs that had supplied drinking water to more than 20,000 residents, an outcome that aid groups and regional officials warn could trigger a public health emergency if repairs and relief are not delivered quickly. The attack took place in Sirik, a port town in Iran's southern Hormuz province, according to reporting by Al Jazeera, situating the strikes within a strategically sensitive coastal region with civilian populations dependent on local water systems. Iranian state media reported that the strikes demolished water infrastructure in the Bamani and Kuhestak areas, detailing damage that local authorities say has left communities without reliable access to clean water and sanitation services. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman vehemently condemned the U.S. military for the strikes, issuing sharp statements that accused Washington of violating international law and of deliberately targeting essential civilian infrastructure in a way that endangers innocent lives. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said, and I quote, "Water is the pulse of life, and the U.S. is deliberately targeting the lifeblood of the Iranian people. As part of its aggression against Iran, the U.S. military has deliberately struck vital civilian water infrastructure in Sirik, Hormozgan, destroying two reservoirs with a combined capacity of 2,500 cubic meters. These facilities supplied drinking water to more than 20,000 residents across 10 villages. This is not collateral damage. It is a calculated war crime and a flagrant violation of human rights and international humanitarian law. The U.S. must be held accountable for committing such systematic brutal attacks on civilian life-sustaining infrastructure." Unquote. Thousands of Iranians were left without running water in searing heat after U.S. strikes damaged key reservoirs. a humanitarian consequence that local officials warn could rapidly deteriorate living conditions and public health if emergency relief is not expedited. Approximately 20,000 residents lost access to safe drinking water following the American strikes, an impact that has prompted urgent appeals for aid and intensified criticism of the decision to target civilian infrastructure. Local and national authorities say efforts are underway to locate and deliver alternative water supplies for the affected villages, including trucked water, temporary pumps, and emergency repairs intended to prevent a broader health crisis.